First, you need to provide support above the usual level. If you do not have a device for this elevation, you must obtain one. Before you provide the elevation support, you will want to decrease the lateral resistance for all the critical contact points. After the elevation device has been utilized, you can complete the rotation of the critical contact points and exchange the impacted element. You will then want to re-engage the critical contact points and remove the device. Was that difficult to follow? Did you have to force yourself to concentrate just to process what I was saying? What if I told you that paragraph was simply a set of instructions for changing a flat tire? Instantly, the jargon makes sense. The elevation device is obviously a car jack, and decreasing the lateral resistance just means loosening the lug nuts. This tire-changing example is based on a 1972 cognitive experiment by researcher John Bransford. He proved that learners who are given the context before they read new information understand and retain vastly more data than those who aren't. When you already know how to change a tire, the technical jargon paints a clear picture in your head, but your listener doesn't have that picture. This is the curse of knowledge. It happens when an expert forgets what it feels like to lack context, causing them to deliver perfectly accurate information that is utterly useless to a beginner. To see exactly why this day transfer fails, we have to look at the architectural differences between an expert's brain and a beginner's brain. Over years of study and practice, an expert builds a highly sophisticated mental model. An expert's mind operates like the organized closet on the left, instantly knowing where new information belongs. But a novice lacks structure. Hand them a fact without context, and they simply toss it onto a random pile on the floor. Here is the real problem: retrieving the data. An expert pulls smoothly from their labeled shelves, but the novice, pictured on the right, has no strategy. They must paw randomly through a chaotic pile of facts, relying entirely on brute force memory. Flooding a beginner with unstructured facts isn't efficient training. It actively guarantees the information will be lost in the chaos. The consequences get worse when experts rely on one-way communication, like a traditional lecture. Humans are sense-making animals. If we don't understand something, we automatically invent an explanation for it. Imagine an experienced barista hastily telling a new trainee to mark a confusing seasonal drink as a specialty order before walking away. Hours later, the expert checks the receipts and finds 107 specialty orders. The trainee, trying to make sense of the brief instruction, assumed every single customer paying with a credit card was making a specialty order. This diagram maps out the experience filter. Because everyone filters learning through their unique past, a single phrase generates completely different mental pictures. A speaker says two groups fought viciously. One student envisions a verbal argument, another a firefight, and the third a street brawl. When an expert talks at an audience, they have no visibility into these diverging mental pictures. These misconceptions often remain hidden until a mistake on the job occurs, long after the information has settled. The way out of this trap requires a shift in strategy. You cannot hand a novice your entire expert framework in one sitting. Before you give them the clothes, you have to help them build a few shelves. You build these shelves by providing context before the raw data. Give your audience a high-level visual roadmap of the broad categories. Use simple acronyms, or rely on metaphors that anchor the new data to everyday concepts they already understand. There is one distinct exception. When communicating with fellow experts who already share your mental model, skip the scaffolding. Give them a fast-forward lane so they can pull the raw data they need without sitting through the basics. But most of the time, your audience lacks context. If you ignore that gap and just broadcast facts, you're effectively talking to an empty room. Look closely at the red double-sided arrows in this diagram. Effective teaching requires a constant, interactive loop. You must pull information back from the learner. By testing how they interpret your words, you can identify their specific mental model and correct it in real time. Ultimately, effective communication depends on an expert's ability to set aside their own complex mental model and meet the learner at their current level, helping them lay the first few boards of their own architecture from the ground up.